Hey, boo, hey, happy Wednesday, whatever day you're listening to this on. Okay, let's talk about the two key metrics you need to focus on. The two areas that I want you to focus on when it comes to your business so that you can have plenty of time for your family. And this is not just about having time for your family. This is also being able to just clock in and out of your business and know that when you walk away from the business, it's doing its thing, it's running on its own. It doesn't need that much, extra thought outside of it, because I don't know about you, but I really enjoy not having to think about the business 24/7, right? My business is not my baby, right? My kids are my baby. And so because of that, I want to make sure that the time that I am spending, in the business is very targeted, very intentional. But also I want to know that like when I get up from this laptop, from this desk, from the bed, wherever I am, I want to know that like when I get up, I'm done. Like I don't have to think about this thing no more. It's doing its thing. Right. And so here are the two key metrics that I feel like are the most helpful to focus on, especially in the beginning. And honestly, even at this stage that I'm in at my business, like I still am just like, you know what, as long as I focus on these two areas, everything else can kind of go by the wayside. So the first thing I want to say is that like, as a mom, like I get it. We're juggling so many things on our plate, right? We have, like my son right now, he started sports and, so we're doing the sports, we're running back and forth there. My little one, we're potty training, and then there's putting food on the table. And then I have a dog and then my husband, like, there's so many like hats that we're juggling in addition to building these businesses. And a lot of us are building our businesses on our own, right? Like for me, I am pretty much building this business on my own. I have one team member and then occasionally I'll have like contractors here and there. And then of course coaches, but for the most part, we build these businesses alone, right? We don't really have these teams that we're outsourcing, all these different steps and stages of our business too. And so because of that, it's important that when we sit down to work, we are really intentional. We are just laser focused on like, okay, here, like this is what I'm going to focus on. Okay. And so the thing that I find, and this is an experience that I had, is that we reach a point as moms where we think in our heads, like we have to choose. You have to choose between, being present, being pleasant to be around as a mom, or growing a business. And the truth is that you don't have to choose. Like there was a period in my business where I did choose, right? And I chose my family, of course. So I closed my businesses. But then I realized when I decided to come back and build my business that I did not actually have to choose between having a thriving business and thriving in motherhood, like being, just feeling really present and excited and being pleasant to be around as a mom, right? And so here are the two main areas that I want you to focus on. And I promise you, like you will maintain so much sanity and so much clarity when you focus on these two areas. One is your revenue and two is your time. Now, the reason why these two areas are the most important is because we all know as moms, time is our limited resource. Okay. We don't have a lot of time. We are already stretched so thin. We're stretched so thin. And so you have to make sure that you are optimizing your time effectively and in the best way possible, right? And the way that you optimize your time is going to look different from the way that I'm optimizing my time, right? To be 100% honest, I actually don't enjoy working on Sundays in the afternoon. I'm currently recording this on a Sunday in the afternoon, and I don't enjoy that. But it's the most convenient thing for my family, right? I'm actually more so of a night owl, so I like to work late at night and different things like that. But at night, I don't have the sunlight. I don't really want to figure out how to do a whole lighting setup and all these different kind of things. And then on top of that, like it's just really nice to be able to kind of record during the day, and then at night I can edit, right? I would much rather prefer to record videos and stuff like that at night than versus the daytime. So I'm saying this to show you like everybody's productivity hours or like what works for you when it comes to productivity is going to be different. But at the end of the day, optimizing for time, that's going to be priority number one. And then of course, revenue, right? We want to make sure that your focus is on revenue, growing, making more money, because that is what builds the business, right? A business without money, a business without sales is not a business. So we have to focus in that area too. So let me break down a little bit more about what these focuses look like. So let's talk about the revenue focus. I feel like this one is a little bit of a no-brainer, but your business needs to make money, right? Like period, point blank, your business needs to make money. So if you're not really focused on your top line revenue, right? The money that's coming into your bank account, like just making more money. If you're not focused on that, it's almost like you're putting a Band-Aid on a sinking ship, right? Like fixing your website, working on Canva graphics, like doing all those things is like putting a Band-Aid on a ship that is literally sinking, because those things may or may not be making you money, right? And so instead, what I want you to think, and I want you to shift your thought process to, is you don't have to be everywhere, right? Like everybody is always saying like, oh, be on this platform, be on that platform. Look at me here on YouTube now, right? So, it happens to all of us, but sometimes it's necessary, and other times we need to know when to pull back and focus on the things that actually make us money. So instead of you trying to be everywhere, I really want you to just focus in on thinking to yourself, what do I need to do to get clients consistently? That's it, right? That is, and don't do anything outside of that. I know it's so tempting to, launch the podcast, to start the YouTube channel, to, create the post on Instagram. Like, I know it's so like exciting and fun to do those things, but I really want you to think to yourself, how did I get my last client? How did you get your last client? Once you know that, go do whatever that was to get your next client, right? That is how you create a repeatable, simple process to sell. And that's when you start to learn how to effectively market. And then of course, convert, which is selling, to the people that you are marketing to, right? So you want to make sure that you are doing that. But also in the midst of doing that, you want to make sure that you're actually showing up and speaking to the right people. This is what I like to call your MVP, your most valuable payer, or your MVB, your most valuable buyer. And this person is essentially the person that actually wants what you have to offer, right? The person that wants what you have to offer, they have a pressing need right now. You want to be marketing and creating content and selling to this person. You don't need a target audience, a niche this, all the different, no, you don't need that. You need to know who your buyer is, right? Who is the person that you are trying to serve, and focus on that one person. And so I teach this whole concept inside Money Mama of who your MVP is, how to find them, how to identify them, how to position yourself in front of them, how to convert them into a buyer. All that is inside Money Mama. But what I really want you to take from this is, when it comes to thinking about your top line revenue, your number one thought process should be, how do I get people? How do I get more people into my offer, or more people aware of who I am, that truly, truly, truly need or are invested, or, they have a problem that I can actually solve for them? Who is this person and how can I get in front of them? Okay. So I actually just recently had someone inside Money Mama who was talking to me, and she basically was saying like this was a problem she was going through. She couldn't convert anybody. And we just really focused on the first couple of phases inside Money Mama. And so those first few phases are like building your buying community. So identifying your MVP. We talked about building an offer, right? A high converting offer. And between just doing those couple of things, she's now seeing faster conversion. She got her first client. She got the client to re-sign already. And so it just goes to show that like a lot of times we focus on, let me have the perfect website. Let me have the perfect this, that, and the third. And while those things do have a role and they play a part in building the business, when we're focusing on like the core things, make money, save time, we don't have time to do all that, right? We just need to figure out, what is that thing? Like, what is the offer? Who is the person that can buy what I can actually provide for them? What is the transformation you can get them? Who is that person? And what do I need to say to them? What do I need to show them so that they can know, like, hey girl, I'm over here. Like, let me help you out. Let's do something, right? So that's where we want to focus, right? So that's that first focus area. The next one is your time focus. Okay. Now remember, time is a very, very limited resource. Okay. You know this. As a mom, we don't have the luxury of 8-hour days. Okay. I know I don't. I wish, like, I think back to before I had kids. And I just started my business. Like, I started my business literally like 5 months before I got pregnant. And I remember thinking to myself, like, 8 hours a day, like I need more time. And now I'm just like, I wish I had 8 hours of time to work on my business, but I don't, right? We have responsibilities. We have a life. We have kids. We have our spouses. Like, we have all these different things that are going on. Church, just everything. There's always something going on, right? There's always a fire somewhere. And so we have to, when we're sitting down to work, we have to make the best use of our time, right? We have to be effective with our time. And this is where time management comes in. And I'm gonna be honest, I never was a time management productivity girly. Like, I really wasn't. I had my little schedule, I knew where I had to be and things like that, but I was never really, super pressed. And I will say, I'm still not super pressed. I don't like time block for real, but I am way more intentional with time management because it does make a difference. At the end of the day, as moms, we have to find the pockets of time that are available to us to work the business. And as someone who's been doing this for, 5, 6, 7 years now, I know for a fact that it doesn't take a lot of time. Like, I know a lot of people that, in my head, I used to think like, I need the 8 hours. You really don't. A good 2 hours a day, a good 4 hours, on another day. And trust me, you can build this thing into something that is sustainable, something that is going to provide the lifestyle that you want for you and your family, but you have to find the time. Okay. This is one of the reasons why I'm really big on tracking your time. So I use Toggle to track my time. But this is why I do that, because time management and focusing on high leverage, high converting activities is going to be the most effective thing you can do for your business. So this is why I started with revenue, because for me, sales is where we need to start, right? Sales is the bare minimum. Any sales activity is going to be priority number one. And so when you're thinking about, okay, here's the time that I have, I only have 1 hour on Monday, maybe 2 hours on Tuesday, and then I don't have any more time until Saturday. Okay, that's fine, right? Now we need to think to ourselves, in that 1 hour on Monday, what is a high impact, high leverage, high converting activity that you can do that's going to move you closer to actually signing a client? That needs to be where your focus is, right? This is what moves the needle in your business. So even though you have limited time, you're still getting more things done, right? And that's the other thing, getting things done to completion, okay? Because your girl used to be the person that like, oh, I have this project, this project, this project. No. Cut that down, right? Cut that down. Even if you only get one small thing done, that's better than having 5 open tabs on your computer. And listen, we know, like, if you're anything like me, I know you got like 10, 20, 30 different tabs open on your computer. And listen, it happens to the best of us. But at the end of the day, if we're trying to see progress and significant growth or significant change in our business, we have to be intentional with our time. And so this could look like batching, right? I'm a really big advocate of batching. Now, there are some seasons where I don't be batching, child. Like, I ain't got time all the time for batching. So it does happen. But if you can batch content, go get a photo shoot done, right? Like, I love doing photo shoots and content batches because it just allows me to, when I'm in a zone where things are happening at home, or I'm just busy, or dang, I'm just tired. Like, I'm just tired. It's nice to have content that I can fall back on and be like, okay, cool. I'm going to use this and just let it rock. Okay. Time blocking. Again, you can time block however works for you, right? I'm not going to tell you like this is the only way to time block, but what I will encourage you to do is just at least have a work schedule in your mind. Like, just at least say, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my work days. I'm going to work 2 hours each day. Like that's enough. That's enough to have a starting point for your time focus, right? For focusing on time. And then from that point, you can ask yourself and you can implement your high leverage activities, right? What are those income producing activities, or what are those activities that you're going to do that's going to actually move the needle? Then you can, decide what those are at that point. And then lastly, delegate, right? I've talked about this so much on my podcast. I think it's ridiculous, right? Like, I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say delegate, but truthfully speaking, at some point we have to delegate, right? At some point, you are going to have to recognize that there are limits, right? There are limits to your ability and your capacity to do things, right? Like, at a certain point, it's like, okay, you literally can't take on another client if you are doing all the things, right? And as much as we want to keep our profit margins, because baby girl, I love me a profit margin. Okay. I love keeping them, nice and healthy, nice and thickety thick. But sometimes we have to hire, we have to, get some assistance. And it could be something in your personal life. I talk about this all the time, where it could be, a laundry service. I love my laundry service. Okay. And I will send my laundry every single week to this laundry service, right? It could be something like that, or it could be hiring an assistant, right? Hiring a content creator to create some content for you, right? To actually create the graphics, because it takes me an ungodly amount of time to create a freaking carousel, right? These things are things that we can delegate, and these are things that will save us time, right? So it will help us with this other area of your time focus. So we have our revenue focus, and then we have our time focus. So I want to share like just a couple of things on how to like implement focusing on revenue and then focusing on time. So when it comes to focusing on revenue, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I want you to make sure that you have a very clear and high converting offer. And what I mean by high converting, I teach this, I really break this down in depth inside Money Mama, but just in a nutshell, you want to have a very clear, simple, and high value offer. Now, simple is the key word. Okay. Simple is the key word. It needs to be something that is simple or easy for you to deliver, right? Especially in the beginning, especially when you are the only person in the business, right? When it's just you need to have a very, very simple offer, because at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of time to fulfill. Like, you don't have a lot of time to do. Now, I'm gonna make the caveat, right? Because as service providers, like, I have a whole service provider business. I'm a photographer and I photograph a lot of people. I photograph maternity, and I photograph brands as well. And so there is a lot that happens over there. And so what I will say is, we have to be mindful when we're creating a simple offer. Like, I'm not telling you just to like, give people, like nothing, right? I want you to still give people the value or the experience, but we want to make sure that the offer that you're giving people is something that is not going to take you days and days and days to complete this project, right? So I used to do this thing as a photographer where for my brands, I would basically, get on like 3 or 4 calls with them throughout the process. And then I just woke up one day and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, it's taking too much time. The clients are rescheduling because it's too many calls and their schedules don't really work. And it was just a lot, right? And then I realized, oh, just have a questionnaire, right? Like, just simplify the process. So you can simplify your offer or you can simplify your process. Both of them actually are required at some point. Like, at some point, you're going to have to simplify the process. And at some point, you need to simplify the offer. But I really want you to think, when you're thinking about your revenue, to think about what is the simplest offer, or what I like to say, what is your bare minimum offer? Okay. And I teach this again inside Your Money Mama. We go like super deep into a high converting bare minimum offer, because that is my jam. Okay. But also, having a simple offer, it keeps you from burning out, right? It keeps you from burning out, and it helps you when you sit down to work, have very focused, like, okay, this is what I'm doing, right? You know that if you have a client project, or if you're coaching a client, this is the only thing that I have to do. Like, your process, it at the back of your hand, and it's super easy, and it doesn't take you a ton of time, right? Like, that's the key. It doesn't take you a ton of time. So not only is this a revenue strategy, but this is also a time strategy as well, right? Because both of these things work together, and we want to focus on both of these areas. So the other thing that I want to say is that I know a lot of people teach the concept of, start with one-on-one, get one-on-one clients, this, that, and the third, and then go into, a launch of having, a group program or a membership or whatever. And what I actually want to say to you is, I think it's more important to do what naturally aligns with your strengths, because that is where the money is going to come in, right? So if you feel lit up, maybe you were a teacher, maybe you have experience in group settings. For you, a group offer might be the best fit. And so in that case, don't let someone discourage you from, starting out with a group and you do one-on-one, right? Like, don't do that. Just start with a group if that's what feels most exciting to you to launch and to sell and to talk about, right? So, and I just want to make that like slide little caveat, because I feel like a lot of people are told, like, you have to do one-on-one. Like, you don't have to. Like, you really don't have to. You can definitely start with group. And if you decide later on you want to pop back over to one-on-one, that's fine too. So that was like a little side note, girl, because I be thinking, but I just wanted to share that little piece. So the last thing I want to say about the revenue strategy, if you say, is I want you to be intentional about tracking your revenue, okay? Because here's the thing. A lot of us think we're not making any money, but we are. What's happening is that you're spending your money a lot faster than you're making it. So what I want to encourage you to do is do the scary thing and look at your money, track your revenue. This might actually be your first hire, right? Hire a bookkeeper, hire an accountant, right? That might be your first hire so that you can get comfortable with seeing where the money goes. Because some people really are making $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, but you don't see it, and you're not paying yourself properly because you're spending the money faster than it's coming into your bank account. Or even if you're not spending it faster, it's like you're just so averse to looking at your money that you don't realize you're actually making any. And that's me, okay? That used to be me for a long time. I used to make money, and I was making good money, $5,000, $7,000 a month, but I was spending it really fast. And then when I look at my bank account, I'm like, why am I negative? Like, I'd be just so tripping, but it was because I wasn't managing it effectively and I wasn't tracking my revenue. So I think it's important that you track your revenue. And even if you're not making a ton of money, because there was definitely seasons where I wasn't making any money, it's good for you to track it so that you know what's happening. You can fully know, okay, I'm not hitting my goals. I'm not hitting the revenue. Why, right? Why am I not hitting it? And then you can ask better questions and you can make better decisions because you truly know what's happening. So that's the revenue. Let's talk about time, okay? With time, we're talking efficiency, okay? So I want you to think to yourself, it does not require a ton of time to build a successful business, okay? Mama, I'm telling you, it does not require a ton of time to build a business, a successful business, a sustainable business. It does not require a ton of time. I want you to say that to yourself over and over and over and over again. 2 hours a day, 2 hours a day. I promise you 2 hours a day. If you go on Instagram, I have a whole little slide or a saved story that shares all of my time cards. Not all of them, but I try to post most of my time cards on there. And literally, I work 10-hour weeks, 15-hour weeks, sometimes 20-hour weeks, right? 12-hour weeks. I usually average anywhere from about 12 to 17-hour weeks. It does not take a ton of time to build it. And this is like post having 2 kids. This is like me building from the ground up with my children. Like, I built my businesses with my kids. So I'm telling you from experience. I'm telling you from clients that I've had that have multiple 6-figure businesses, right? Like, These women are building these businesses and they have 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, and literally we built the business with our babies. It does not take you a ton of time. I really want to encourage you in that. I really want you to hear this like from the depths of my soul. It does not take a ton of time. What it does take is focused and intentional energy, right? It takes a strategy. It takes you sitting down and saying to yourself, it's not going to take me a ton of time to do this thing. And I'm only going to give myself 15 minutes for this email. A lot of the girls be getting gagged about, oh, it takes me, forever to write an email. No, it doesn't. Stop saying that. Stop telling yourself it takes a long time. It doesn't take a long time. 15 minutes. Set a timer. When that timer goes off, that email is done. Okay. That email is done. I have such a hard boundary around how much time I will spend on an email. All my emails. And if you're on my email list, I send a lot of emails. 15 minutes. That is how long it took me to write the email that I sent. And you know what? The truth of the matter is that you need to know your audience, because most audiences don't have a ton of time to read a long email. Nobody wants to read all that. Okay. Now some audiences do, right? Some communities do. And that's why you need to know your buyer. You need to know your audience. You need to know your community, because if they enjoy a longer email, okay, cool. Go off, right? You can give yourself a longer timeline on that. But as for me and my girlies, okay, we don't need all of that. Okay, we don't need all that. So 15 minutes, that's it. Maybe for you, you set the boundary of like, okay, after 20 minutes, like the post is done. The post is going to go up. Okay. I try to set boundaries around like my podcast content. I don't know how things are going to change now that I'm doing YouTube, but I do try to set a boundary around like, okay, around the 25-minute mark. All right, chop it up. Time to go. Time to wrap this thing up. Setting boundaries and being intentional around your time is going to save you a lot, because the truth of the matter is, and this is what I see happen time and time again, is that, think about content, right? You create this piece of content and it's a long piece of content. Well, what we fail to think about is like, is the person on the receiving end, right? Is our buyer on the receiving end going to consume the length of content that we're putting out there, right? And then furthermore, do I want to edit all this? Do I want to try to chop this up? Like, what do I want to do? It's better to create a bite-sized piece of content for someone, like chop it up for them and it be multiple pieces of content, than for you to create one long piece of content and then hope and pray someone consumes it, right? So this is what I mean by time, right? Be more effective with your time. You can spend an hour and batch a month worth of content, or you can spend an hour and create one piece of content. What do you want to do, right? Set the boundary. There's some kind of law. I can't remember what it's called, but there's some kind of law that's like the amount of time that you give yourself, like you'll fill all the time. So if you give yourself an hour to do something, it'll take you an hour to do it. If you give yourself 15 minutes to do that same thing, it's going to take 15 minutes, right? Trust me, girl. Because I track my time, I know this to be true. And that's why I set a very hard boundary around how long or how much time I'll spend on something. And the other thing that I want to say is get comfortable with saying no, right? And this is across the board, like in life, in business, in every area, get comfortable with saying no. I say no to so much stuff. If when I first hear something, I'm not like, oh yeah, I just say no. Like I just say no. And then later on, if I want to dial it back and be like, oh, you know what? After all, I do want to do this thing. Okay, cool. But usually my first response is no to a lot of things. I don't tell my kids no to a lot, but everybody else gets a hard no. Okay. And I don't feel bad about it. And if I need to dial it back, I will. Like I'll go back and I'll say, you know what, actually, like I can do this thing, or I do want to do it. But it's okay to say no, because the truth of the matter is that our time is limited. And as moms, we have to protect that time. If not, you will wake up and be like, you know what? I don't have time for this business. I don't have, like, there isn't an extra hour. There isn't an extra 30 minutes I can squeeze out here or 30 minutes I can squeeze out there. It's going to happen. And so in order to eliminate that, we have to, and this is why I said earlier, like at least create a work schedule where you're saying, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday gets 2 hours, right? 2 hours a day. And then you need to, after that, decide what are those 2 hours? Is it going to be, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m.? Is it going to be 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., right? Is it going to be what I do, midnight to 2, right? Like, what is it going to be? What does that look like? And then protect that time. So if someone asks me, all right, Kay, do you want to go X, Y, and Z? If it runs into my work time, the answer is no. No, and it's okay. I think that sometimes, we feel bad about saying no or not wanting to do. It's okay to protect your boundaries if you are focused on an important goal, which for a lot of us, building a business that is sustainable is an important goal. honor that, right? Honor that. Honor your need for sleep, right? So if you need to sleep, stop telling people, yes, you're going to go do this, that, and the third. You're going to volunteer for this. Stop saying yes. Say no. You know what I'm saying? It's not selfish. It's self-preservation, right? Because in order for you to be the best mom, business owner, wife, whatever that you need to be, you need to prioritize yourself. You need to rest. You need to do all these things, or you won't be pleasant to be around, right? And I want to be pleasant to be around. I want to be present when I'm somewhere. I don't want to be, zombied over because I'm so freaking tired, right? Because I stayed up late trying to do the business stuff, and I stayed up late, doing this other miscellaneous thing that I didn't even want to do in the first place. So anyway, time strategy, right? I really want you to just be intentional and be very focused in the time that you're spending. Okay, so this was it. I feel like I talked about a lot of different things here, but I really want to leave you with this. Focus on your revenue and your time, right? Focus on selling and your time. These two things are going to help you simplify your business. It's going to help you really organize and know what you're sitting down to work on. And also, it's going to help you get really clear on what to track and to kind of problem solve the results or what you're seeing in your business, right? A lot of things in business, I've worked with hundreds of business owners, and a lot of times I see that one of the two things is happening. Either you're not selling enough, or you are mismanaging your time, right? Maybe you are spending time doing things that, if you really look at it, there's no direct correlation between what you're doing and making sales, right? Like, there's no correlation between what you're doing and signing a client, no correlation between what you're doing and fulfilling what you've promised to a client. So what I really want you to do is focus in on, okay, how can I increase my revenue, right? How can I get my next sale? How can I sign more clients? How can I have more conversations to attract more people? Focus on that. And then I want you to focus on, okay, when I sit down to work, is what I'm working on doing something revenue generating, right? Is it doing something that's either bringing me in more revenue or serving the clients that I've already signed? Okay, so that's it for this one. And what else I want to say? Oh, don't forget to grab, I have a ebook or an e-guide. It's called How to Get Your Next 10 Clients. It is bomb.com. Okay, it's bomb.com. It really is me walking you pretty much through the entire process of Money Mama, but I kind of shorten it and put it inside of this, I think it's like a 16-page document. I give you like swipe copy, so like you can literally just copy and paste what I put in there and use it for yourself. So there are a lot of really good things in there. So go ahead and grab that. And that's it for this one. Until next time, I will talk to you later, Arlen. That was so